Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Twin City Trio podcast here on YouTube. My name is Cale Fleming. Alongside me, as always, my two hosts, Gavin Campbell and Tyson Snyder. We took a little bit, 2 weeks off for the holidays. We haven't had an episode for a while. Decided to spend some time with our families, although a lot happened when we were gone. Tyson was in Dallas, so Jake filled in for him. Tyson, let's start off with this. How was Dallas, man?
It was a lot warmer than it was here, so that was a pleasant surprise. We went to the Cowboys game. That was awesome. My first professional game ever. Went and saw my favorite team, too. How about them Cowboys pulling out a win over the Bucks? Seats were awesome. They returned that touchdown straight to us. I got a really good picture of Jalen Smith running into the end zone right in front of us. But it was great. Had a lot of fun. Couldn't complain about a thing. Food was great. People were great. It was all awesome. Very, very cool experience.
I'm glad you had fun down there. We missed you while you were here. I'm sure you know a lot happened with the Illini recruiting, which is what we covered. Well, obviously. Gav, how was your Christmas? How's everything going with you?
Oh, it's going good, man. Just happy to be back on the grind.
For sure. Let's get it. New year, new us. We're going to kick it off, though, with the new NFL postseason schedule for 2019 or the 18 season, whatever you want to call it. For those of you that don't know, the Colts are taking on the Houston Texans at home. Seattle will be at Dallas, Los Angeles will be at Baltimore, and Philadelphia will be at Chicago. That will be everything taking place for this weekend. Let's kick it off. Gavin had a pretty hot take about the Colts over text message a couple days ago. So let's start with that. Gavin, you made a pretty bold prediction. Tell me about it.
I don't know how bold it is, but, I mean, if you want to call a 6 seed beating a 3 seed in the first round bold, I'll go ahead and take it. I just think that Andrew Luck and the way that he's performed these last 10 games, the Colts going 9-1 in their last 10. The defense, number one in takeaways and points off turnovers since week 8. I just think that's something you can't ignore. Not to mention Houston's been bit by the injury bug just a little bit these past few weeks. Although I do think Deshaun Watson, I mean, that's the biggest X factor for me. We all know that DeAndre Hopkins can do what he does, but the fact that they won't have a run game and Lamar Miller being 100% healthy, I think that's a big question mark going into this, not to mention Indianapolis's interior defense. I just think the Colts have too much going for them. I mean, Andrew Luck has been the least sacked quarterback these past 10 weeks. So I think that when Andrew Luck gets time in the pocket to throw, I mean, he makes things happen. I mean, outside of T.Y. Hilton and Eric Ebron, I mean, who else do the Colts have out there at wide receiver?
I'm glad you brought that up because T.Y. Hilton is going to be questionable for Saturday. So that might put a damper on things. That is Andrew Luck's top target, I do believe.
And you're right. But, I mean, like I said,
he still has Ebron.
Yeah, he still has Eric Ebron. He's caught at least one touchdown pass, I think, the last 8 or 9 weeks. On top of that, he's I don't want to say he's throwing to nobodies, but guys that we don't see all the time in ESPN highlights, you know. So I don't know. I like what they're doing. I like their defense. And it doesn't matter, even if they get down by 14, 17 points, they always seem to be in the game. We saw it a few weeks ago when they went up against the New York Giants. They were down 14-0 in the first half, and they came back and pulled it out. So I'm taking the Colts in this one.
Tyson?
I think the run game has a lot to do with it as well. Marlon Mack has kind of come out of nowhere in this last half of the season. And he's been unstoppable, really. Almost every game he's gone for over 100 yards, had at least a touchdown in almost all the games as well. But he's really diversified that offense, which is a part of the reason I think Andrew Luck hasn't been hit as much. It's hard to hit the quarterback if you actually have a running back that defenses have to worry about. And I think that gives the Colts a really good chance because the Texans aren't really known for run defense. They have a really, really good pass defense. They've got good defensemen in the secondaries, and they've got a couple guys on that D-line that can get after the quarterback, J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, those kind of guys. But you don't really hear a whole lot about their run defense. They don't have a whole lot of big run stoppers right there in the middle. So I think that gives the Colts an upper hand as well. But for me, this Colts team, it's the things you can't see, and I know I talked about this a little bit. But that coach in Indianapolis, I can't remember his name.
Frank Reich.
Yeah, Frank Reich. He has that Colts team believing, and that's very hard to get 53 men in a professional sport to believe that they can win. And I think that's very key. There's not a lot of teams all the way through top to bottom that believe that they can win, believe they can do something special, and he has that team believing that. And you just don't see that kind of energy in a lot of locker rooms, and I think that's something special to see. So I think the Colts have a really good chance at winning this game.
Yeah, let's not forget this team was 1-5 in their first 6 games, and they finished the season 10-6. That is not easy to do. I think one of the only other teams that we've seen do that in recent memory was the Titans about 8 years ago with Vince Young. Mm-hmm. Man, and I know I don't remember if you guys ripped me for this or not, but I really need to talk about it. That 2007 Super Bowl run that the New York Giants had, where they beat the undefeated Patriots. This is starting to feel like one of those teams where they just kind of snuck in the playoffs, and they were hot, And I feel like this Indianapolis Colts team is one of those teams that could be really dangerous coming into it because they take on the Texans and then they move on. They got the 6th seed. They're going to have to go up against the number 1 seed in Kansas City. And I really think that they got a good chance just based on Kansas City's history. They got a second-year quarterback, although he's probably the front runner to win MVP. Andy Reid still is the coach, and we know that he likes to choke in the postseason. He did it in Philadelphia. He's been doing it in Kansas City. I mean, it's just looking really, really plausible for them to make it to the championship round.
I'm going to take Indianapolis in this just for the sheer fact that I like Vinatieri and I like Andrew Luck. I feel like they turned their season around completely from the first 4 weeks they've had. Like not only Tyson said, not only did Frank Reich, their head coach, have him believe him, but Chris Ballard too. He had a lot of criticism, the GM, from Indianapolis media, not only Indianapolis media, but national media too. So I got to go with the Colts on this just for the sheer fact they're going to ride the hot hand. If this is anything like the MLB, I'm taking who's hot. Next game, we got Seattle at Dallas on Saturday to round out the nightcap at 7:15 Central Time. Tyson, we obviously know you're going to take Dallas in this. But what is Dallas going to have to do, Tyson, in order to beat Seattle at home?
Well, both teams are very similar. They both got really good defenses. They both got really good running backs, but we know who the best running back is. And then they both got pretty good quarterbacks, but we know where the quarterback advantage lies in that one. So all in all, both these teams are very evenly matched. To win this game, Dallas is going to have to – their defense is going to have to show up again. Like they have for the last 10 weeks, they're going to have to absolutely show up and play out of their minds, shut the Seattle offense down, which isn't impossible. The Seattle offense is known to falter from time to time. Russell Wilson can't always make things happen. Their offensive line isn't consistent. But the main thing for me is shutting down that run offense. Seattle's got the number 1 rushing offense in the league this year with Chris Carson and Russell Wilson getting after it. And Dallas, not that their run defense is bad, but that's where it's lacking this season. So I really like to see them 2 middle linebackers show up and stop that run. I know that takes them out of the passing game a little bit, but the cornerback play has been so good this year with Byron Jones especially, and then Cheeto Uzie and Anthony Brown out there in the secondary. They've been phenomenal this year with Jeff Heath backing them up. But really, the run defense for me needs to show up and feed the beast, feed Zeke. He's had a whole extra week off this week. He said he was ready to go last Monday, as opposed to he's usually not ready to go till about the Saturday before the game. So he is fresh and a half, and I think he's more than ready to go feed the beast. I'd like to see him get 40 touches this week. I bet he can get 200 yards pretty easy.
So last week, Tyson, you were watching the game. Zeke wasn't there, obviously, so Dak had to take over some of the workload. Boy, did he. He stepped up and he took over. That was exactly what he did.
387 and 4 touchdowns.
Absolutely. So
no turnovers for once.
The combination of Dak and Zeke, if they can get that figured out in this game, I don't see why Dallas can't single-handedly beat Seattle. Do you?
Absolutely. If Dak can play like he did, and I'm not expecting him to, if he can play half as good as he did with 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, I'll be more than excited. So, I think that combo, if they can both show up and both play really well, I don't see any reason why we don't blow the Seahawks out of the water.
Well, and let's not forget that this is their second meeting of the season, and the first time these two teams met, the Cowboys were without Amari Cooper.
Correct.
And so
and
I think
by 7, I think.
Yes. Not only that, they were at Seattle. Correct. Now they're going to be at Dallas.
Dallas is 7-1 at home this
absolutely.
season.
And when we look at that, I think the overall picture, we got to understand this is not the same Seahawks team from years past. They don't have Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Chancellor, these guys that were in the secondary. They're gone.
Correct.
All right. Amari Cooper, I expect to have probably one of the best games, I don't want to say of his career, but of his postseason, because obviously they're going to win this game. I think they got a real good shot at taking on the Saints. We'll get to that in a second, but like you said, as long as Dak doesn't turn the ball over, I think he's got a playmaker now that he can go to. I think that opens up the space for Cole Beasley. I also think that opens up space for their backup tight end that had 3 touchdowns a couple weeks ago.
Like Jarwin.
Jarwin, yeah, that was. I tell you what, that guy. I don't want to say that they have
been waiting for him to explode.
Exactly. I didn't want to say they had a playmaker, but I definitely think if that's your third option, he's looking really good. He's been flying under the radar all season, but that guy has talent. I just want to see Zeke get 20 carries. Just 20-plus carries. That's all I want to see. If he can get close to 100 yards or over 100 yards, Cowboys should have no problem winning this game. The one thing I want to say, though, is that the Seahawks run game, the second half of the season, man, has it picked up a lot.
Right.
And like you said, if Dallas doesn't find a way to shut down the interior and, just kind of at least slow down the Seahawks run game, because that's going to open up the field for Russell Wilson to do whatever magic he can pull out on Saturday. So, man, it's going to be a good game, but I think overall Dallas will pull it out.
What needs to happen is Dallas needs to get out to a lead quickly, so Seattle can't rely on that run game, can't help use that run game to pull them back in and stay close. If they get a lead, you can't run because that runs out the clock. But going back to Seattle's secondary real quick, their defense, it isn't what it has been. But the one greatest surprise on that defense, they've still got the likes of Bobby Wagner and a lot of those guys up front. But in the secondary, Shaquille Griffin has been playing for him. He got hurt last week, but they're thinking he'll be ready to go for this game, and he's been absolutely outstanding this year as a second-year player. He's been their shutdown cornerback. But I think you said it, they didn't have Amari Cooper when they played him the first time, and he easily shut down Beasley. I think Amari Cooper's going to run all over him. Shaquille Griffin has been phenomenal this year, but he's going to be not 100%, and I just don't think he's had to keep up with the likes of an Amari Cooper so far. But the defense, yeah, you're right. It isn't what it has been, and I hope that really helps out the Cowboys here with that playmaker on the outside.
Dallas is just going to smack Seattle, in my opinion. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But let's move on to Sunday here. We got two more games, wild card games. L.A. at Baltimore, the Los Angeles Chargers, taking on the Baltimore Ravens. I honestly don't care what happens in this game. I don't like Baltimore. I don't like the Chargers other than Phil Rivers. He always seems a way to get it done. He's not near as big of a hack as everybody thinks he is. He does it every year. So what do you guys think about this matchup?
Well, let me just start off by saying that Baltimore pretty much shut down Phillip Rivers and the Chargers offense in their previous meeting in the regular season.
Like 180 yards and
didn't even
an offense combined.
Exactly. Didn't even scratch 200 yards, and that's not like Phillip Rivers. We know he likes to sling the ball 300, 350 yards a game. But what's really interesting to me is this Baltimore team that just pounds the football. I mean, it looks like we're watching a game from the 1980s. It's crazy the way that they're able to run the football. They got two really solid running backs, and not to mention their quarterback, Lamar Jackson, who, can you believe it or not, in 7 weeks broke the record for most rushing attempts by a quarterback in a single season in the NFL.
And not only that, real quick, Lamar Jackson is the youngest person to ever win a Heisman, and now he's the youngest person to ever, at 19, now he's the youngest person ever to start a playoff game at 21.
Yeah, and that's not just quarterbacks. That's
anybody.
Yeah, anybody, which is crazy. That's an outstanding stat. But I think that he's going to get a little overwhelmed in this game. I understand they're at home, but it is the playoffs, and this will be his 8th week starting the playoffs. But no, I don't know. Something's telling me. I know that Baltimore went to Los Angeles, where the Chargers play. I mean, it's not really home field advantage. It's just kind of a place to play right now where their stadium's being built. But something's telling me that Phillip Rivers is going to pull through and get to the next round, and that's the only thing I'm banking on, is that he's been here before dozens of times. So, I mean, I'm looking for him to step up.
I think if the Ravens win this week, they've got a really, really good shot at going a long way in the playoffs this year. They're a very, very good team. We saw them come out of nowhere and overtake the Steelers to claim that spot. But Phillip Rivers is incredible. It's not very often that he gets bested twice in a season, let alone by one team.
Which is just an example real quick. I mean, we saw it with Kansas City, who I think overall is a better team than Baltimore.
Right.
And we saw them play earlier in the season, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, but this Baltimore team has incredible potential, but we saw them slip at the end of last week against the Browns. They were ahead by a lot, and they only won by 2 points, almost letting that one get away, almost missing the playoffs totally. But I think Phillip Rivers is the key in this one. I don't think he'll be bested again by that Baltimore defense, even though that Baltimore defense is very good. They're the highest scoring defense in the league this year, meaning they have let up the least amount of points. So it's very hard to score on this team, to move the ball on this team, but I think the Chargers and Phillip Rivers can get it done. A lot of people are going with the Ravens, and I completely understand that pick at home with this young spark that they've got in Lamar Jackson. They've been on a tear here recently. But I'm going with the Chargers in this one.
Same here. No argument out of me. I just like Phil Rivers. Last game, NFC wild card, game number 2. Sunday afternoon, we got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. Gavin, there's no issue why the Bears can't win this game.
Oh, there shouldn't be an issue on why the Bears can't win this game, but there's always one factor that I'm thinking about.
Nick Foles?
It's Nick Foles, yeah. I don't know what it is about this guy. He has baffled me the past 2 years. How
his team plays a lot better with or when he's out there because Wentz ain't out there. You can see it. Look at it. Look at the numbers when Foles is out there and compared to what Wentz is out there.
No, and
it's
that's
remarkable.
And I understand what you're saying, when that's what a lot of people try to tell me. But what doesn't make sense is that you take this guy out of the Philadelphia system and he plays like absolute garbage. It doesn't make any sense to me. What I think it really comes down to with Nick Foles is that when there's nothing to play for, it's the Ryan Fitzpatrick situation.
It's really good in his contract year.
That's what it is.
Like crap for 4
when nothing else matters, Nick Foles plays like a god, right? I mean, when he has nothing to play for, that's when he shows up. But we saw, was it last year or 2 years ago when Wentz was there, and Nick Foles was always the backup. When they want him to be the starter, he falls apart. He can't take the pressure. We saw the same thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick. He had 2 great games. They expect him to take over the starting job over Jameis Winston. He falls apart. They're pretty much the same guy. I just think Nick Foles is a lot more talented than Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Less period.
Well, yeah, that too. And I don't think he went to Harvard either. But anyway, getting back to the actual game. Other than that, I think the Bears statistically on both sides of the football, I think they're just that much better than Philadelphia. Let's put it that way. You got a team that's 12-4, and you got a team that's 9-7. Granted, their schedule was a lot more difficult than Chicago's, but they still play in the NFC East, and we know how competitive their division can be. They're usually due for 3 or 4 wins in that division the past few years, but we saw the Cowboys make a move for Amari Cooper, and we saw the Giants actually kind of get up in the middle of the season and not lay down and die and be competitive. And then the Redskins there for a while before Alex Smith went down, they were a threat. So, I mean, they've had some difficult games, but Nick Foles shows up, they beat the Rams, and I feel like it's a completely different team these past 3 weeks. Now, when you look at them head-to-head, I really don't like Mitchell Trubisky versus Nick Foles in this game if Nick Foles is 100%. Other than that, I really like Jordan Howard, Tariq Cohen in the backfield, and then we'll have to see if Allen Robinson comes back. We know he's injured. Eddie Jackson was at practice this morning.
And he did practice the other day.
Yes, and we hope that he will be ready to go because he's missed the past couple weeks with a foot injury. I think the biggest thing for us is that, and us being Chicago, is that Zach Ertz I don't think is going to be that much of an issue in this game.
I disagree with you on that.
Here's the thing is, Carson Wentz is the only reason Zach Ertz had so many receptions. And that's not to take away from him because he is an incredible talent. He's a great tight end. But we know Nick Foles likes to throw it to Aguilar. He likes to throw it to Jeffries and his wideouts. He's not a tight end guy. And I think because of his play style, that's going to, in the end, it's going to hurt Zach Ertz in the way that he's able to contribute to the game and make an impact.
Here's my thing is, I feel like the Bears are going to be so focused on Alshon Jeffrey and Aguilar. I can't say his name. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. That Zach Ertz is going to be there wide open and it's going to force Foles to throw to him. So that's where I'm getting at on it. Alshon Jeffrey I'm not worried about because Adrian Amos, Kyle Fuller, them guys can shut them 2 down. I'm not worried about them guys.
Well, let's not forget a couple years ago, Jeffrey was a Chicago Bear, so it's not like we don't have guys on the roster that know his play style.
They offered him a contract this season, right?
2 years ago,
he
did,
he
yeah.
was like, nah, it's just a place I worked. Philly's home, yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said. So I think that the Bears' secondary has a little more to play for. But ultimately, I think Chicago should handle this team no problem. As long as we can keep them under 24 points, Chicago's undefeated.
Yep.
So we just need to keep it a low-scoring game.
Khalil Mack. Nick Foles ain't had to deal with the Khalil Mack all year either.
No.
That was going to be my comment. I think what separates these teams is the defense. Especially Nick Foles is coming off injury. He went out towards the end of the game last week with a rib injury. Ribs are a very sensitive issue. They're very easy to flare up and re-injure yourself. And their backup is Nate Sudfeld.
Who?
Exactly. So I personally, I'm knocking on my wood here. I don't see any situation where the Bears lose this game. Even with Nick Foles, the god of clutch situations, whatever you want to call him.
The best backup of all time.
I do not see any possible way that the Eagles can beat this team, especially if that Bears defense can even get close to Nick Foles and make him uncomfortable. So I expect this game is in Chicago. It's going to be very cold. Not like Philly's not used to playing in the cold, but it's still warmer in Philly than it is in Chicago. Nick Foles.
No lake effect there.
Yeah, I don't see Nick Foles performing very well in Chicago amongst all those Bears fans. Getting pounded by Mac all game, getting pounded by the likes of Akeem Hicks, especially if Eddie Jackson plays. I think Eddie Jackson's the guy they're going to use to cover Ertz. Coming up at it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they'll play him up out of the safety position and have him come up and cover Zach Ertz at the line, jam him up a little bit. But I just every professional picker I've seen picking these playoffs, NFL Network, ESPN, Fox Sports, doesn't matter what, has picked Philadelphia for this game. And I could not be more than surprised. I don't understand how these teams are picking Philadelphia. They barely squeaked into the playoffs. They're on a backup quarterback. They're almost on a third-string quarterback. If Nick Foles gets his ribs hit again, I just don't understand.
What they want to happen is they want another last year. That's what they want. Where Nick Foles stepped in and like, oh well, look what he did last year. But what you have to understand is that the NFC, these playoffs compared to last year, they're a lot better, if not 3 times better than they were last year. Just the matchups alone, and we can look past the rosters, just the teams, all right? And if you take, like you said, if you take away Nick Foles out of the equation, there should be no competition. There should be no question of who comes away on top of this game.
Right.
And I don't really have too much else to say about it. The only thing that I'm worried about is Nick Foles. But I guess the way you put it, I shouldn't be. But at the same time, I've kind of bought into what I've been seeing from the people on ESPN, Fox Sports, and all that stuff. That Nick Foles is playing. You never know what could happen. But you have to remember that Chicago Bears are one of the hottest teams in football right now, winning 9 of their last 10. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm just going to leave it at that and say Chicago pulls out the win.
So let's move on here. We got the rest of the playoffs. Saints are in as the 1 seed, and then the Rams are in as the 2 seed. So if the Bears or the Eagles win that game, we're going to have the Bears or the Eagles will take on the Saints.
Well, the Bears would take on the 2
Bears
seed.
Would take the Rams.
Or the Rams, my bad. The Rams, okay.
And the Eagles would play the Saints.
Okay, so that being said,
we're going to assume that Chicago takes care of business here.
Yeah, let's just assume that, but at the same time, not assume too hard because anything can happen. So
right.
I don't know. How do you guys feel about the playoffs in general? Let me ask that because anything can happen. I don't want to get the cart ahead of the horse here. Who do you guys feel like has the best right now coming into the week 1 of the playoffs, wild card weekend? Who has the best chances to win the Super Bowl?
The Saints.
Okay.
I mean,
it's hard to argue that.
Listen, I wanted to go with somebody else because I've been thinking about it the past few days. I was like, who else has a better chance than New Orleans to make it to the Super Bowl? And I really can't come up with anybody because, first of all, you got to play at New Orleans, and we know the Dome. It is one of the hardest places to play. Undefeated at home this season. And on top of that, you got a quarterback who might be the second hottest quarterback in football besides Patrick Mahomes and Drew Brees. You got an offense that, granted, has gone stagnant the past 3 or 4 weeks, but before that, I mean, they were putting up historic numbers on offense. And then a defense that's actually good enough to be in the top 12. And if you have a top 12, top 14 defense with a number 1, 2, or 3 offense, that's a good recipe to win the Super Bowl. So I don't see that there's another team in football, maybe Kansas City, but that defense is way too vulnerable for me to put that much faith into them. I could say the Patriots because of old Tom Brady and what he's been doing in the playoffs the past decade and plus. So, but no, it's got to be New Orleans. I don't see anybody else.
Who do you think?
I'd have to go with New Orleans too. We've seen they're vulnerable, and we've seen that stellar offense stagnate from about the Cowboys game a few weeks ago. Since then, it hasn't really been the same. They haven't been putting up the same 35 points a game. Alvin Kamara hasn't had a 100-yard game since then, I don't think. Drew Brees hasn't really had – he had a couple decent games, but he hasn't had any of the 354 touchdown games in a while. So the offense hasn't really looked like it's still good enough to get the wins. They're still winning, don't get me wrong. But they haven't looked like that record-setting offense they did at the beginning of the season. But that being said, I still think they've got the best chance, even though we've seen they can be vulnerable. With that loss at the Cowboys, we've seen the Rams are vulnerable with losses in the last few weeks to the Bears and the Eagles. Either two are possible for them to play. So I got to go with the Saints in this one. I just don't. It's a tough road for any of the wild card teams on either side. I would say the Chiefs, but like Gavin pointed out, that defense is horrendous. The only other team I can see with possibly a better chance is the Patriots. Never bet against touchdown Tommy.
I mean, one other thing I guess I could say is if it was outside, a team that gets a first-round bye, I would have to say it's the Colts that have the best shot to make it. And I know that sounds crazy, but go back and listen to what we said. Absolutely. And let's just assume this happens. The Colts get out of the first round. They beat the Texans. They got to go to Kansas City. Let's say that defense is just too bad. It becomes a shootout. The Colts, slow down Patrick Mahomes, not shut him down, but slow him down. They get the win. They're in the championship game either versus New England. I like Andrew Luck against New England. You got the Chargers. I like Andrew Luck against the Chargers. Or you got Baltimore. I like Andrew Luck against Baltimore. I mean, all three of those teams, don't get me wrong, their defenses are pretty solid, especially Baltimore. People argue that's the best defense in the league, and the Chargers are no slackers either. I mean, there's something about Andrew Luck and that offense. I just trust him. I trust him.
For sure. All right, so there you got it. NFL, this wild card weekend. Some Super Bowl predictions from these two. I'm not even going to give one because I got no clue. It's obviously going to be the Bears. But anyway, you guys want to talk about some basketball now?
Yeah, we can talk about some basketball.
Let's move on to some college basketball and specifics. Last night, Gavin's Indiana Hoosiers took on our Fighting Illini. The only time Gavin will not be an Illini fan is when they're playing the Hoosiers. Gav, you didn't get a chance to watch the game, but I watched the entire 40 minutes. Illinois in the first half came out really strong. They were playing with confidence, and they were playing with swagger. Two things you need to win in games in the Big Ten. Illinois, let me put it this way, had Indiana confused for the first 20 minutes. They didn't know what type of offense they were running. They didn't know what type of defense they were expecting on the other end. One thing I'm going to say is just what happened in that second half for the Illini. I'll tell you what happened. Romeo Langford is what happened, but I don't know exactly where we fell apart. And
they stopped playing with that confidence. They stopped playing with that swagger. They got in their heads because the game came back and got tied at halftime.
Which is where the turnovers came into play. Because, we had 5 shot clock violations in the second half, and on top of that, 12 turnovers with a total of 23. And then Romeo Langford decided he was going to show up. He figured out that defense.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. Romeo Langford was the key to this game. But one thing that I saw just from following the play-by-play on my phone, or on my computer, was, Illinois was up 27-15 at one point. I think there was 10 or 9 minutes left in the game. 6 minutes left in the game. And then after that, like Tyson said, they came back from a 12-point deficit in the first half to tie it up, Indiana. And at halftime, Illinois was like, well, what just happened? 6 minutes go by and we got a tie ball game. So they come out and they don't know what to do because, what they were doing, Indiana caught on to, and they didn't know what to do to change it. If they did try to change something, obviously it didn't work because Indiana came out and, double-digit lead within 10 minutes. They just couldn't recover. On top of that, like you said, the forced turnovers, that's never a good thing. Overall, I think
they weren't necessarily forced turnovers either. I'm not going to say that. I can't sit here and tell you they were forced.
Right. Well, what I'm trying to say is,
they were freshman turnovers.
When you get 12 steals on your 8 of those 12 steals in the second half, I'll put it that way. That's just sloppy basketball. Something's not going right, and it has nothing to do really with the game plan. It's just not holding on to the basketball. And when you can't do that, and you give the other team free opportunities to score, or at least an attempt to score, it's not looking good for you going down the stretch.
So I want to say this: Indiana won the game in the second half. They won the game. They took over. They figured out that Brad Underwood decided to run a 2-3 defense, 2-3 zone. I'm not sure what that's going to do. If you're going to run a zone, run a 3-2. How hard is or a 1-2-2? But with the shooting team, Indiana is first in the country in shot percentage. So that tells you right there that if you run a 3-2 zone, make them shoot from the outside. I like my chances, honestly, of winning a Big Ten game for schools shooting threes. And all honestly, that's what I like to see. Make them shoot threes until they start hitting every one of them, then you change it up to man-to-man.
Well, you're absolutely right, because when we look at the box score, Indiana shot as a team 16% from three.
Yeah.
16%. That's not good at all.
The chances of winning the game on 16% from three is a lot better, but also you got to remember Romeo Langford has to be the best cutter in the Big Ten at a 17-year-old. You have to think about that. That dude found the back door several times in the second half. Nice. Several. It just opened right up for him.
Well, and the fact
which also helped, Juwan Morgan helped him open that back door too.
Right, I was about to say, because when the attention is elsewhere, Langford, that's when he shines, is like you said. I mean, he is a cutter. But one thing I want to focus on is the fact that he got 15 free throws in this game, which is a season high.
That's too many free throws.
Absolutely. And when he makes 11 of 15 free throws on a guy that shoots less than 70% from the floor or from the line, that's not good for the other team. I'll just put it that way.
But Illinois in the first half, we made 10 of our first 16 shots. We went on a 10-0 scoring run.
That's 66%. That's pretty good in college basketball.
9 minutes into the game, Indiana decided they were going to go on a run, which Bloomington, Gavin, you can't lie, is known for runs. The Assembly Hall, which ours is better, well, what was the Assembly Hall? But you cannot deny the fact that the Assembly Hall, Bloomington, Indiana is known for runs, because we went on a 10-0 run in the first half to start it. Then Indiana went on a 13-5 run to end the first half. So I'm going to tell you right there, that it's a fun gym to play in, a lot of history in that gym. But man alive, did Illinois shoot themselves in the foot.
I want to go back to what Gavin said a little bit. That's what I wanted to touch on was the free throws. Because if you look at the first couple stats, Illinois was 25 of 58, shot 43%. Indiana was 23 of 48, so we made 2 extra buckets than they did. And they shot 47%. Illinois was 8 of 28, shooting 28% from the three-point line. Gavin touched on it. They were 2 and 12. Indiana was 16%. So we made 6 more three-pointers than they did, plus 2 more baskets than they did. Really, we should have won this game if you look at that. Until you look at the free throw statistics, and not only did Romeo Langford shoot 15 and make 11 of them, Indiana as a whole shot 35 free throws and made 25. 71%. Now, that's not great, making 25 of 35, but the ones they made is over double of the ones we even shot. Illinois was 7 of 12 from the free throw line. Well, they only got 12 free throws. We had 2 guys foul out. Kipper and Georgie fouled out. We had 2 other guys.
Kipper fouled out with 9 minutes left in the second half.
Frazier and De La Rosa on 4 fouls. They had 1 guy get close to fouling out. Durham had 4 fouls for him. Really, the Illini, they can't stop fouling, and I've seen that repeatedly in the last couple games. It hasn't really been a big issue until I look at this game where we should have beaten this number 21 ranked team.
We had it.
But we can't stop fouling long enough to make them stop scoring points, stop giving them free points. They shot 35 free throws, which is just far too many.
Which to me is a conditioning issue. Honestly.
Yeah, it could come down to that, but I think you also don't tell me that this doesn't exist. I mean, home court advantage. I mean, that always plays a factor. Yeah,
sports, it's a big factor.
It is probably the biggest in all sports. I mean, the college level, absolutely. But man, it just because I was torn on this game. Obviously,
we
even
out-rebounded them too. I'm sorry.
No, you're absolutely right.
Indiana's post game isn't near as strong as ours. I mean, that's saying something too, because we don't really have a post game whatsoever minus Georgie.
Well, I mean,
Kane should have played more, in my opinion, too.
I was just about to say that. I think Kane, if he was in the game, would have been a bigger factor. Exactly, he would have been a bigger factor. I think De La Rosa, don't get me wrong, I mean, he's an enforcer, but he's not really finesseful, if that's a word, around the basket.
Moves. Kane's got them. They're there. They're just not developed. But real quick, I'm going to go back on free throws. You guys were talking about that.
Yeah.
I sent you a tweet from Jeremy Warner last night. Illinois this season on free throws is 154 for 229, which boils down to 67.3%.
Not good.
Illinois opponents this season, 256 for 358, 71.5%. I think I told you guys last night that in the Big Ten, you're not going to win games unless you can shoot over 70% free throws.
I think that's anybody. I think that's anybody. If you can't shoot at least 70%.
58% last night.
Yeah, if you can't shoot at least 70% as a team, no one's going to win.
That is abysmal.
They're free shots.
And then, too, I went to the Florida. Let's go back to the Florida Atlantic games. We haven't really seen each other since then.
Right.
So the Florida Atlantic game, that was probably, I'm gonna get killed for saying this, but I'm a diehard Illini fan. I always will be. That was our last winnable game of the year, honestly, when you look at it. We're going to have a tough time going on. We got Northwestern, but you can't even count Northwestern out. Rutgers, maybe a win. Maryland, we're not going to beat them. But anyway, let's go off of this. We missed 19 layups in that game. In the first half against Indiana, we were 6 for 6, and we ended up, I think, I want to say almost 14 for 22 on layups again. How does that happen? Elementary textbook plays, we can't make them. I don't know if you want to call it age, if you want to call it just incapability or what.
Indiana had 5 blocks as well, which those blocks go into the missed shots, and a lot of those were in that layup territory.
That's
so
a strength.
A little bit of that goes into it, but yeah, that's a strength issue. Just need to grow up and get better shots.
So, I'm going to highlight some positives because we've been sitting here beating the crap out of this team. I'm still going to watch every game, ride or die. Romeo Langford, I'm not even going to break that open because he went on an 8-0 scoring run to open up the second half by himself. Io, Desumu, Georgie Bashanishvili, they played great games minus all the turnovers and minus Georgie fouling out, which will come when he gets more experience, more playing time. That will stop. Io finished with 20 points, and I think Georgie was right there behind him with 19 or 20.
18.
So Georgie had 18. I know Io had 20 because he hit a last second three. Frazier, he's been absent. That's another minus, but Frazier's got to turn it on. We ain't going to win games if he's absent.
Well, he also had 6 assists, so I mean he was on the floor making plays, but
things.
he cannot throw the ball 13 times and only make 4 shots.
He had 11 points, I believe.
Yeah, he can't do that.
Georgie played a great game. Other than fouling out, he made a lot of mental mistakes, a lot of turnovers. You can pound that into the ground, but he did play a good game offensively. He was showing great post moves. He did hit a jumper. Io taking it to the rack, and not only that, shooting threes. One thing I will say, when he is shooting threes and he gets those wide open looks, he hurries himself too much, which I understand that's an age issue. Io's going to develop. Georgie's going to develop. But you cannot tell me this. I see this on Twitter every time we lose, that Io and Georgie are not two guys you can't build around. I've been telling this.
Sure they can.
Tevion needs to play. Alan Griffin needs to play. Those are also two other guys you can build around.
Right.
Which is our big commit. Tevion is why we got a big commit in Antoine January for next season.
Well, and then you put those 4 together, you think that this core will be able to come together and produce more wins.
Underwood wants to shoot a lot of threes. Those are the guys that can do it.
They can, but I think what you guys have been saying, Jones has been suspended.
And nobody knows what for.
And that's it. I think that's a very big reason why they're being unsuccessful. We know that he's not the best 3-point shooter, but he can still shoot it.
Not only that, he can take it to the rack.
That's what I'm saying. It opens up the floor, and exactly on the defensive side. That's
great defender.
But I still think that he's reached his ceiling. You have Jones step in there. Who knows what his ceiling could be?
Yep.
The potential there is endless right now for him being so young. But I just want to say that something I've noticed up until this game is that all of these guys on this roster can play. They're just inconsistent as hell because it's every other night somebody goes off. We've seen Feliz do it. We've seen Frazier do it. We've seen just last night against Indiana we saw Io do it and Georgie B. Every single guy on this roster is capable of going. We even seen Aaron Jordan had I think a 16-point game.
Had 20.
So there you go. I mean, all these guys can do it. It's just can they be consistent? Until we see that, we're just going to keep seeing games like this where they think they're in it because the box score says they only lost by 8, when in reality they lost by 20 in their heads.
I'm at the point right now in this season we have interconference play. I'm at the point now where I'm just going to start trying to figure out and see what we can do to improve for next year. That's where we're at. Honestly, I don't want to say I completely throw it in the towel. Are we going to make the tournament? Absolutely not. Are we going to make the NIT? Hell no. We can't. We're not even an NIT team. So we just got to sit down and you got to look at the positives of what's going to happen for next season.
Well, and we said this before the season even started. This is a very, very, very young team, and if they start the season hot, they're going to continue that hot streak. If they start the season slow, which they did, they're going to get in their heads. They're going to doubt themselves. They're not going to come with that confidence and swagger that these young players were known for, why we wanted them here so bad, and they're going to get in their own heads and shut themselves down, and they're going to have an awful season. And we're starting to see that part of it more. They're getting in their own heads. They're not playing with confidence. They're not coming ready to play, and they're destroying themselves from the inside right now. They got to get out of their heads. They got to get that confidence back. They got to just start coming and having fun again. Just got to come and play basketball. Yeah.
Well, and one last thing I want to add before we move on here is that I think when it comes to consistency, Underwood also needs to.
Anyway.
It's always right when you're talking.
It's always me, man. You never pick Cale. But anyway, getting back to it, when it comes to consistency, one thing I want to say is that Coach Underwood needs to not, pick and choose when he wants to play these guys, and they don't know when they're getting minutes, who's going to start, who's going to play how long. There needs to be consistency from the coaching staff as well as the players when they're on the floor, And I think I'm going to end it there because I'm going to pass out. Cale, go ahead and take it away.
Well, you're going to make me talk.
I couldn't agree with that more, Gavin. I think that consistency from the coach is a lot of it.
He can't draw up plays out of timeouts to save his ass.
No,
He cannot do that.
And he's rotating these guys every minute.
It's like hockey out there.
Yeah, it's looking like hockey switch. Everyone is on 45-second shifts. Like, you
got
to leave those guys in to let them shoot more than once to build that confidence. And I think the players are in their own heads, and the coach is not helping them.
Alan Griffin against Florida Atlantic with the other night. Dude, this is bad.
This is bad.
Alan Griffin against Florida Atlantic last Saturday, had a terrific post move to get to the rim as a guard. What did Underwood do? Yoink, you're done. What? How does anybody get any rhythm? How does anybody get any type? I don't know. Man.
Well, yeah, but see, that's the thing is it's not just confidence; it is rhythm because we know basketball is a game where if you get in that groove, you keep going. Exactly. You get on the heat check. You make a couple baskets, you feel good about yourself, and we've all seen on every single level of basketball when you're feeling yourself and the ball's going in the cup, that's good for not only you but for your team.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right, and what I don't get is that it's on a continuous basis. The only thing he's consistent about is being inconsistent.
Yep.
And it's ridiculous. And let me just say this. There's a reason that he's lost both of his jobs up until this point, and I think we're seeing it right now. This is a veteran coach that wants veteran players, and he doesn't have them, and we're seeing it. These are the flaws.
I think Jamal Walker needs to be the next head coach. Let's move on to the
hot take.
Let's move on to the rankings. This is week 9. They have not been updated for next week, so a few of these are going to fluctuate. Number 1, Duke at 11-1. Still don't understand it because you got number 2, Michigan at 13-0. Strength of schedule comes into play. I get that, but geez, man, 13-0, you got them at number 2. Number 3, Tennessee 11-1. 4, Virginia 11-0. Kansas 5, 11-1. They've dropped. If you can count 1 to 5 drastic, I do in college basketball because it's going to be a hard climb back to number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, Nevada 13-0. The strength of schedule really comes into play there. Number 7, Gonzaga. They dropped, losing 2 games, 12-2. Michigan State, number 8, 11-2. Number 9, Florida State, 11-1. They're playing great basketball right now. Look for them late in the tournament. I got them going to the Elite 8 at least. Number 10, Virginia Tech, 11-1. 11, Texas Tech, 11-1. Number 12, Auburn, 11-2. Kentucky, 10-2, 13. I still don't like Kentucky, never will. Number 14, Ohio State at 12-1. North Carolina bringing in number 15 at 9-3. Number 16, first appearance in the rankings this season, Marquette at 11-2. Number 17, Mississippi State at 12-1. 18, NC State 12-1. 19, Houston 13-0. Number 20, Buffalo, my boys at 12-1. Gavin's team, Indiana, ranked 21st at 11-2. Number 22, Wisconsin at 10-3. Former Illini coach, former Atlanta Hawk coach, Lon Kruger in Oklahoma at number 23, 11-1. Nebraska 24 11-2. And this team will no longer be ranked because they just lost to unranked Purdue last night, number 25, Iowa 11-2. That is an updated record, although Purdue is 9-5 now. Iowa's not going to be ranked.
No, and they shouldn't be.
Any disagreements?
Not that I see. I mean,
Michigan's the only disagreement I have.
Well,
yeah,
I'll give you that. Yeah, but I mean, other than that, no, not really. I mean, the one thing I would say is if you wanted to give Houston a top 15 seed, I mean, maybe.
I'm going to tell you this, and that was the AP I just read, and the coaches poll, Duke is number 1, number 2, Virginia, number 3, Tennessee, number 4, Michigan.
Number 4, Michigan.
That's the coaches poll, not the AP.
Number 4, Michigan.
Yeah, that doesn't make
That's
sense.
a joke.
Michigan's the best team in the Big Ten. They will be all season. I don't see them losing. But it is the Big Ten.
I don't understand that even a little bit.
No, I don't even have anything to say. That's ridiculous.
I'm
talking about bias.
We see how many teams in the Big Ten? 7.
Yeah.
This is the best Big Ten conference has been in a long time, and Illinois is going to struggle a lot.
It's starting to look like football all over again, and it makes me very sad.
Although football, we got Shimon Cooper last night, so that's
That we did.
Number 149 on the ESPN 300.
Not only that, we got 2 other Under Armour All-Americans as well as Cooper.
So man, we got to. So
just keep bringing them in.
Yeah,
keep bringing them in.
Maybe moving, but let's keep on topic here. This is the best Big Ten conference has been in a long time. This is Big Ten basketball that I want to see, that I can sit there and I can watch any game. I've always been a Big Ten guy. I love Big Ten basketball more than football, honestly. I don't know, man. The Big Ten is going to be tough. I see the Big Ten making a late push in the tournament. Michigan being a Final Four team. You can't even count out Ohio State, Michigan State. Michigan State always gets there too. I don't know. I don't see many teams other than Duke and possibly maybe even Zaga or Kansas that can make a Final Four push. Although it is the NCAA tournament, March Madness is a thing for a reason. I don't know.
I think any of the top 4 Big Ten teams could make it. And I'm not. That's being unbiased. I do think they're that good. Maybe Indiana a little bit, being 21.
The
But
only thing that's going to hinder Indiana is their age.
Exactly.
But they're still playing phenomenal basketball.
Right. I'm just saying after this week they'll be in the top 20 as far as ranking goes, and I think that should. I mean, as far as seeding goes, when the tournament comes around, that should propel them for a good shot. When they get to the Sweet 16, if they make it to the Sweet 16, to make Final Four push.
There's so many teams in the Big Ten that could be ranked. It's unreal. I see Purdue being ranked by the end of the year. I also see another team that may surprise you guys a little bit, and that's Iowa State. I see them making it into the top 25 before the end of the year, too.
I'm really surprised Wisconsin at 10-4 is 22nd, but Minnesota at 12-2 is not even 25th.
I don't understand that either. Minnesota looks good.
Yeah.
Paterno, it's his son. Coach at Louisville is his
Rick Pitino's son is
Pitino.
yeah, Paterno, that's a different story, but Rick Pitino's son, is it Richard?
Richard, that's it.
Richard
Richard.
Pitino?
Yeah, Richard. He's the coach at Minnesota, and man, that's a basketball family and a half there. But I don't know. It's going to fluctuate all year like it always does. I just see more Big Ten teams getting in it. I see Duke not being number 1 all year. I see Michigan taking that spot. Because once Big Ten play happens, they got to really take strength of schedule into that. And if they, stay this hot that they have all year, that's going to play a big factor.
I just can't wait for the tournament, man. That's like one of the best couple months in sports, just March Madness. Man.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to move on to some NBA.
Yeah, we can talk some NBA.
So, one thing I want to talk about is last night, man, Danny Green received a warm welcome, didn't he?
Oh, he sure did.
Howdy, Kawhi Leonard didn't.
Well, I think it was about 60-40, and 60 being the boos, 40 being, people that actually appreciate a guy that was a Finals MVP and helped you guys win a championship over, the LeBron Heatles. So I thought that was a little disrespectful, but I understand fans want to be fans. I show nothing but respect to guys that, play for my team and, don't talk trash. All Kawhi did was talk up the Spurs organization. That's all he did. He showed nothing but love.
Anything bad.
No,
About Pop.
Even Coach Pop, he loves Popovich.
He came give Pop a big old hug before the game.
Yeah, he sure did, and I love to see that. I just thought it was disrespectful, and that's just fans being ignorant, in my opinion.
Hey, how about the Bulls? They just got a pretty massive deal last night from the Grizz, I think is who it was.
Yeah, they did. Trading Justin Holiday.
Yeah, and they got a lot for him in return. I can't really be upset about that.
Dylan Brooks and a couple second-round picks and another.
Cameron Payne got axed. Man, that was a big fiasco on Twitter. That was kind of funny.
I don't know why though. I mean,
the captain tank, cuz.
I mean, yeah, but he wasn't playing anyway. So did you really need him? No, but I don't know. He hasn't really done much since his first year in OKC, and even then, did he really do much? Not really. I mean, that was always a draft pick when OKC took him late in the first. I thought it was kind of questionable, but I mean, hey, what do I know? He's out of the league now, so.
All right, so we haven't talked about this yet. A big deal going on is between Anthony Davis and LeBron. The whole tampering issue. LeBron took him out to dinner in L.A. LeBron wants AD in L.A. Everybody knows what's going on. Do you think it's tampering? Because I sure don't.
No.
What's the difference?
Who says two friends can't go out and have dinner?
It's that, yeah.
Exactly.
Now, if there's any basketball talk involved, that's on them. We don't know that.
Right, and it's their own personal life. And players can do what they want outside of the game. I feel in any sport. I don't care. It's their personal life. It's personal for a reason. They have that right. They have that ability to go and do and say as they please. So
I don't see it tampering. You don't either.
No.
No, there's nothing wrong with it because other sports allow it to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong with it at all. I think the public, especially on Twitter, man, did they blow that up? I thought it was ridiculous. Like Tyson said, it's just two guys going out to eat. They just want to have dinner, have a good time, catch up. There's nothing wrong with that.
You don't talk about tampering. How about when D. Wade was taking LeBron and Chris Bosh out to dinner and on boat trips
Nobody said a word about that.
Yeah, no one said a word when they were all going to the Heat, but...
The only reason this is even remotely a thing is because of what Magic Johnson did when he was trying to recruit Paul George a couple years ago.
Right.
That's the only reason tampering even became a thing.
Right.
I mean, that's it.
The only time I can see tampering being an issue is in college sports. The recruitment is so strict in that I can see that being an issue. But professional sports tampering, I don't see as a thing. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Sorry, I had a little something. A little weird.
Let's move on to the East. Nobody cares about the West in this room because I don't. Although, congrats to Denver for still remaining on top. OKC moved to number 2, and then Golden State's now at 3. I love to see that.
Yeah, thank you, James Harden, for that game winner last night that put Golden State behind Oklahoma City. That was fantastic. Real quick, I just want to say MVP again, 2 years in a row. James Harden MVP. That's my vote.
Ben Simmons Rookie of the Year. Anyway.
Yeah, true.
Number 1 in the East now. We got a new top, new champion, new king. Let's new king right now. The Milwaukee Bucks at 26-10. The only reason why they're on top because Toronto has 2 more wins, but they also have 2 more losses. So 28-12 is what Toronto's sitting at. Then my Pacers are at 25-12. Number 4 Philly 25-14. Number 5 Boston 22-15, and they're getting hot. Miami 18-18, Charlotte 18-19, and Detroit at 17-19. God, that's hard to believe that you can have a losing record still be in the top 8.
Welcome to the Eastern Conference. That's what it's been for the past 20 years or so. Ever since Jordan retired, that's how it's been.
I think the major story right now in the Eastern Conference is the Bulls are not losing the tank game anymore.
10-28.
We're 2 games ahead of Cleveland. What are we doing? Come on.
They're trying to decide to play, although I will say that Jim Boylan, the new head coach for the Bulls, is trying his hardest because he sat Wendell Carter the other night for like 22 minutes. Didn't play a single minute in the second half.
Yeah, what was that stupid quote he had after the game? Sometimes you
can learn by sitting.
Yeah, whatever, man. Whatever, man.
You gotta learn the back of his hand, boy.
Oh my goodness, that is ridiculous. I tell you what, just being a rec league coach, I would never say that. I would never say that to my players ever.
All right, but anyway, is anybody going to be able to stop Milwaukee or Toronto? And at this point, Philly's getting hot, Boston's getting hot. Outside that top 5, I don't really care because they're just dumpster fires. Indiana is playing good basketball. Milwaukee, God, they can't be stopped. Toronto can't be stopped. And Philly's getting it figured out, too, all of a sudden. So, can anybody be stopped?
Enter Jimmy Buckets.
Yep.
Yeah, well, let me just say this. I think Toronto got stopped last night by DeMar DeRozan. I think he was a little upset.
You want to talk about disrespectful?
just a little upset getting his first career triple-double against his former team with, I think, 21 points, 14 rebounds, 11 assists.
Yeah, he had a hell of a stat line.
That was, I tell you what, it was bittersweet watching him beat the crap out of my team, but it felt good.
He was doing some sexy stuff out there down around the rim.
It felt good on a personal level, though. I know you don't want to talk about the West, but I really want to talk about the Denver Nuggets.
I hate the West.
I'm just telling you right now. I did not expect that. I mean, they've been on top of the West for an entire month now.
Kings.
And them too, sitting just outside the playoffs there at 19-19. Real quick, now that you brought that up, that is one team I did not expect to even be remotely competitive.
Dude, De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hyde ain't nothing.
I was expecting them right there at the bottom of Phoenix.
Absolutely. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, all the teams that they're better than right now. I mean, Memphis, I wouldn't have called that. Utah, Minnesota, maybe. New Orleans.
New
Orleans started the year at like 5-0.
New Orleans wants to lose Anthony Davis. That's what this is. They want to lose the brow.
They lose AD, they're done for. I mean, they're done.
It's ridiculous. And all these people are saying, like, well, why don't they just trade him now? I mean, why would you trade a guy that's selling tickets when you know he's going to leave next year, try to get as much money as you can? Because if you trade him now, especially if you trade him to a Western Conference team like the Lakers, I mean, you're pretty much shooting yourself in the foot.
Who are number 8 in the standings right now.
Absolutely. So you pair LeBron with the brow. I mean,
LeBrow.
I don't even want to know what they could do.
Too. The Pelicans, they got an opportunity to get some decent players out of this.
They do, or they still do. But I think that they're going to.
They could potentially get Lonzo, Kuzma.
I think what's going to happen here, and you're absolutely right. But I think
Lonzo's a good player. I just don't like his dad.
Exactly. This is what's going to happen, and this is what.
Going to let Lonzo leave?
I think Magic is going to tell him he's leaving.
Actually, I haven't heard from LeVar in a long time.
Because he's putting all his focus in that young. Is it LaMelo? Is he the youngest?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. D'Angelo's the middle. He's the one that got caught in China.
That guy.
And then LaMelo's the young one. I think LaMelo has the most talent out of the 3.
He's going to USC.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah,
No UCLA.
He's going to
Okay.
USC.
Anyway, what I wanted to get back to and what I was alluding to with New Orleans is they're not going to let Anthony Davis go until next summer because that's what everyone else has been saying is they're going to wait. They're going to offer him that max contract extension with 1 year left on his contract. He's going to decline it. Then they're going to be like, oh, he doesn't want to stay, play stupid. And then they're going to put up all these offers from the other 29 teams in the league and try and get the best deal possible. It's the same thing with the Kings when they traded DeMarcus Cousins, even though he had 2 years left on his deal. It was the same thing with the Paul George situation with 1 year left on his deal, Kawhi Leonard. I mean, ever since Paul George, I mean, we've seen it. It's just teams keep wanting to do this. They want 1 year left, and they want to ship off their superstar for as much as they can when they don't think they can get him back.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense if you think about it.
Yeah.
You know why LaMelo's going to USC? Because LeVar Ball's stupid pay your players thing didn't really work out like planned. I just thought that was kind of funny because,
doesn't he have like
this thing that LiAngelo and LaMelo were going to lead this college players get paid thing, and it's not really working.
It was a specific league that was going to be like the G League.
Yeah, it's like the G League.
Alternate G League, but it's like...
What did he call that? Big Ballers.
Yeah, the Big
Big
Ballers.
Baller League or something.
Big Baller League.
What a joke.
That turned into a joke.
Keeping up with the Kardashians.
Here's the thing, dude. I got to give him props for trying to make his own business, but that was not the way to do it.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that. I'll talk about his son because at least his sons aren't. I mean, I kind of feel bad for Alonzo and LaMelo and the other one I don't even know.
LiAngelo, that guy.
But I kind of feel bad for them kids, man. But anyway, honestly, is anybody going to beat Golden State?
I think now they probably can. I mean, I don't know. I see enough teams in the West. I mean, here's the thing. Golden State, they've played 39 games. They've lost 14 of them. I did not expect that whatsoever. They're the 3 seed right now, especially when they don't have that home court advantage. Not that it's really mattered this season to begin with, because they've dropped a handful of home games so far, 6 to be exact. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm coming around to the fact, because I love parity, that I think that someone can come in and take down this team. But, I mean, like Tyson said, I don't really think that I'm going to be able to come off of it. I want to believe that I can, but what people keep forgetting is when DeMarcus Cousins comes back, if he is even 3/4 of the player that he was before he went down, this team is going to be a lot scarier than they are, because the Draymond Green struggles are going to be over, because you don't have to worry about him anymore, because you have another goon coming in.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, who's Golden State going to have to play in that Western Conference? Denver? With Miles Plumlee starting? With T. Craig? I don't even know who Craig is. You got Nerlens Jokic, who is pretty good. Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray's decent. Hernan Gomez is their other starter. On the bench, they got Paul Millsap coming off the bench. Paul Millsap's always been pretty decent. But then you got one of the Morris twins. You got Beasley. You got Gary Harris. Is there? I just don't see this lineup beating that Golden State team, even though they're in first by a few games now. I just don't see it possible with the names they've got. I don't see how they've won as many games as they have.
I'll tell you why Denver's going to lose. They just released Swaggy P.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that, you know what? That's it. That's it. Here's the thing is, Denver, as long as they have home court advantage, I think it's hard to play in that altitude anywhere, even though they're indoors. That Mile High City, it's not an easy place to play. Oklahoma City, they're by far the best defensive rated team in the entire league.
That's hard to believe.
Russell Westbrook and Paul George are combined for 5 steals a game.
How is Oklahoma City doing? Oh, well, they got rid of that cancer. Never mind. I had to think about it for a second because they were awful last year.
And Steven Adams is pretty good.
I was about to say, addition by subtraction, Melo's no longer there. Not to mention, they'll get Roberson back.
Yeah.
When he comes back, they're going to be an even more defensive-orientated team.
And everybody forgets he's gone.
Yeah, and you can't really do that. I mean, granted, he can't shoot a lick, but he's got to be at least a top 10 defender in the league.
Paul George is their only shooter because Russell Westbrook can't shoot.
Yeah, Russell Westbrook, he's back. I think the only other team, I think Houston, especially after last night, I mean, we see that James Harden is just fantastic.
Russell Westbrook shot 3 of 20 the other night.
Yeah, I told you he's back. I mean, I tell you what's even worse. He's shooting like 63% from the free throw line.
Oh,
he's never shot below 70% his entire career.
Specialty too is getting to the free throw line.
Yeah,
I mean, as much as he drives to the rim and finishes and then gets the and one, he can't convert it.
It's sad. Another surprising team. I know these West standings are really close, but Portland. I mean, I like the Trailblazers. I love Baby
Myers
Dan.
Leonard's still there.
Well, yeah, that guy.
Myers, my boy.
Yeah, that guy. that guy. No, I really like Portland. Damian Lillard, C.J. McCollum's really good. I like My buddy John calls him the Bosnian Bear, the Nurkic, Yusuf Nurkic there, yeah. He's pretty good. I like Zach Collins, former Gonzaga guy. I just don't know who can beat the Warriors. I really don't.
Yeah, let's move on to some hockey.
I like hockey. We can do hockey, yeah.
How
about some All-Stars?
How about some rankings?
No, we can do that.
Nobody's going to play in an All-Star game, including Alexander Ovechkin, the Gray Wolf. He's sitting out. Tampa Bay, 32-7-2 with 66 points. Their differential this season's plus 55. 17-4 at home, 15-3-2 on the road. 3-0 in shootouts. They're 9-0-1 in their last 10. They're on a 7-win streak. Good God. Anybody going to stop Tampa Bay?
No.
No, I think that's been consensus since the start of the year. They looked really good.
I thought Toronto was going to be the only one to do it. And they're 26-12.
They're doing everything they can to keep up at this point.
Yeah.
They're pulling way ahead of everybody. The Caps 24-12-3. Pittsburgh, Sidney Crosby, I guess you can't really, he's still Sidney Kid, even though he's not a kid anymore. 22-12-6. Boston Bruins, they took it to Chicago on New Year's Day. 23-14-4. The Sabres are a horse. They're a wagon this year. 22-13-6. Columbus 23-13. Although I still want the bread man back, Kane might get his long lost brother back.
Can we talk about Winnipeg just for a second?
Winnipeg's playing great hockey.
Exactly, and I don't understand.
You got to look at Connor Howell,
what happened.
Dustin Byfuglien. That duo there. Dustin Byfuglien is a unit of a man. They moved to the Patrick Laine. They went to the playoffs last year and they made a deep run.
No, I know they did, but
they also
same roster minus who's the guy that got signed by the Golden Knights? I don't remember his name.
Carlson.
Yeah, they lost him, a defenseman. Yeah, and I thought that would open up things a little bit for the net, but obviously that hasn't been an issue whatsoever. It's surprising to me.
25-13-4. I never thought Calgary would be on top of the West.
I never thought Calgary would be good.
Me either. Vegas has turned their season around too. They're 24-15-4. Vegas started off bad. They were bad to start the year, but they're in third right now. They went way up.
They're in second right now, actually. They're right behind Calgary.
Oh, they took over Winnipeg?
Yep. Well, they're on top of San Jose by a point.
Hey, how about the Hawks? How about the Hawks overtaking the Blues in the standings? That feels good.
The Hawks are playing good enough hockey to give Stan Bowman all the reason to keep his job. That's the only bad. I'm glad the Hawks are playing great hockey right now. They're losing some tough games.
That Winter Classic was one. I watched that game. That was a good game.
Ward played a great game. It's just that Boston has way too many shooters.
Chicago's got 7 overtime losses. That's second most in the league, right behind Colorado with 8. So they're getting there.
We're in the same division, so that tells you how tough that is.
Well, besides those 7 overtime losses, I think we've got 28 losses total. I bet 20 of those are by a goal.
They are by a goal because we lost
every game is close. We just get hosed right at the end.
We lost 3-2 last night to the Islanders in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
The Blues are bad. The Coyotes, everybody was talking high about them. They're bad. The Kings are terrible. Dallas, they're okay. They stay right at number 6 with Jamie Benn every year. Nashville, what happened to Nashville? They're 25-15-2. I don't know, man. The NHL playoffs this season are going to be a lot of fun. The second half is going to really kick off after the All-Star break, and it's going to be nuts to see what happens.
Absolutely.
I'm just glad the Leafs are losing.
Oh yeah, it makes me feel really good. They get my hopes up. They signed Tavares and they jump out to like the second or third best team in the league, and now they just I feel bad for all those people that betted before the season started.
Yeah.
But no, I still think it'll be Tampa Bay and Toronto in the finals, but I think the Lightning is just going to run away with it.
I think Nashville's going to get in there.
Yeah, we'll see.
The Western Conference, I got Nashville taking that. I seriously do. Nashville, they made it to the Western Conference Finals last year. They didn't win it. I still feel like they're going to end up winning the Western Conference Finals and going to the Cup.
I mean, if they do, they're going to have to get it together. I mean, they've dropped down to number 5. So
Pekarine's back. He's been out, too. That helps a lot, even though I don't like Pekarine.
well, I mean, I'm sure it helps a lot, but just with that guy gone, you drop that far, that tells me that the rest of your team is very vulnerable.
Their backup goaltender is bad. Pekarine has the single-handedly best save percentage in the NHL when he's on the ice.
No, and that's good, but what I'm saying is, what does that say about, the back end of the team minus the goalie?
If Pekarine goes down, they're done. If the defense on the defensemen for Nashville are really good, it's just that, man, I can't even remember their backup goaltender's name. That's how little I paid attention to it. He's bad.
So he's just that bad,
he's
then.
Oh, man, he's letting up. We got to think you got a guy letting up 5-6 goals a game. So Nashville's got to score that many, which they did. They just couldn't hang on because their goaltender wouldn't allow them. Pekarine, they can score 5-6 goals a game. They're going to win that easily. That's just how good he is. I haven't seen the All-Star. I know Kaner made it.
All I know is Matthews and Tavares made it.
Kane made it. Tavares made it. Ovechkin's sitting out. So somebody's going to replace him.
Wasn't Ovechkin the captain?
Yeah, he's sitting out.
Yeah.
And who's the Oilers guy? I forget his name.
Connor
McDavid. Yeah, he made
the
it.
guy from Tampa Bay. What's his? The second.
Steven Stamkos.
Yeah, he made it. I'm trying to think.
The guy from Montreal made it too. Goalie. Price.
Carey Price.
Yeah, he made it. I don't have the roster in front of me. I saw it one day, and those are all the ones I'm remembering.
All I know is Patrick Kane made it.
That's all that matters,
That's
right?
all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Patrick Kane, best player in the NHL. I don't know, boys. It's going to be fun. NFL playoffs kicking off New Year. NHL playoffs, they're going to be hot. We got college Big Ten basketball, NBA. There's going to be Victor Oladipo needs to be an all-star, by the way. So does Miles Turner.
Oh, yeah, quick shout-out. Make sure you guys, if you're still listening to this point, vote for your all-stars on NBA.com. Should be a big banner there, presented by Google, I think.
Vote Victor and Miles Turner. Victor Oladipo, Miles Turner.
I've already voted, and I did have Vic as one of my Indianapolis guards, or one of my Eastern guards from Indiana. I also voted for a man, Derrick Rose, because that's sixth man of the year. Please get him in the All-Star game. Please. I'm begging you as a former Bulls fan, please get Derrick Rose in the All-Star game.
As a Derrick Rose fan, getting back.
Just please.
Can we say this? I saw something the other day.
Not even as a fan. Based on his play, get him back.
He's having the same season that he did in New York in 2016, I believe it was. That he is right now at Minnesota. In 2016, people were calling him a bum, and now they're calling him an all-star. What sense does that make?
I don't know. I can't explain that.
Explain it.
I can't explain that because I love Derrick Rose. I have nothing to say.
Dude's got bad knees.
I thought he was washed up. Don't get me wrong, but
that's what I'm saying. That's what
I didn't.
He was washed
I always thought he was talented. I just thought that his body couldn't do what he wanted to do anymore, and I think that he changed his game. He doesn't rely on athleticism anymore. We see he has a great mid-range jumper. We see that he, instead of throwing the ball down like he did and jumping 6,000 feet in the air to dunk the ball, he's just being an acrobat. He's gliding through the air rather than jumping as high as he can to throw it down.
Russell Westbrook does that a lot.
That's Russell's game. But now you see what happened. We saw what happened to Derrick Rose with his knees. Same thing's happening to Russell Westbrook. He just turned 30. His body's starting to break down on him. And we see when these point guards, these athletic point guards that can't shoot, when they can't jump anymore, what happens? They can't play.
Which makes me real nervous about Victor Oladipo because he plays like that.
Well, but here's the thing that Victor has. Here's the thing that Victor has on all those guys is that he's probably the best defender of all three of them. Listen, Russell Westbrook's averaging more steals right now, but Victor Oladipo is a better on-ball defender than Russell Westbrook.
Is it true to the fact that Russell Westbrook, Victor has the talent, there's no arguing that, but that Russell Westbrook maybe taught him a thing or two in his time in OKC?
Oh, he could have. Very well could have. Here's the thing. Here's what people don't understand is that the animal mentality that Russell Westbrook has, he is one of the best teammates.
The leader.
And maybe not so much on the court. I mean that because sometimes he can be a little selfish in the last 2 minutes. But I'm talking about in the gym, outside of that, at dinner. You're just talking after practice. He's a great guy, and I've heard things from Nerlens Noel and Paul George and Dennis Schroeder, all the guys that were on that OKC team and still are. They talk very highly of Russell Westbrook. That's why they want to play with him.
I think I'd want to play with Westbrook.
He's going to go. PG-13 stayed there, so
he's going to go down as one of the greats of our generation.
Yeah, only guy other than Oscar Robertson to average a triple-double in a season. Whether you like triple-doubles or not, you got to say it's impressive.
Yeah.
I mean,
but also it's impressive at the same time that you can also look at it from my dad's point of view and perspective that maybe he needs to pass the ball a little more.
Yeah, just a little bit more. Hey, NBA is a game of superstars. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Always has been. Was that it? I think we're good here. That's all we do.
Machado's going to sign with the White Sox.
Harper's going to Philadelphia, right? Oh, you're just going to go to the Cubs?
Yeah, the Cubs.
We'll still see him in blue.
At this point, I got no idea where Harper's going.
No.
I thought I had an idea where he might have landed in with the White Sox, just like Machado.
Didn't you call that a couple weeks ago? Harper is going to go to the White Sox?
Now I have no clue. I'm pumping the brakes.
All right.
I've got no idea. Other than Machado confirmed White Sox, Troy Tulowitzki to the Yankees, Yasiel Puig, Alex Wood are going to make the Reds better. The Reds might actually sweep us again. The Cubs haven't done shit.
The Reds will always sweep us.
The Cubs added Kendall Graveman from the Athletics, starting pitcher, another
Who?
starter. Kendall Graveman has a 3.0.
Another starter. We're going to turn into a
bullpen guy. He has a lifetime 3.46 ERA as a starter.
That's not awful.
I mean, it could be worse. It really could be worse.
Could be worse. Could be paying you Darvish $110 million to sit or to pitch 10 games. Not only that, lose about all 10 of them.
Who's homie we got from the Rangers? Cole Hamels.
Cole Hamels.
He had like a 11 something ERA
With,
last year when we
with,
picked him up.
with Darvish coming back, Lester returning, and Cole Hamels, I don't see why we needed a fourth. I don't see why we needed a fourth pitcher. Other than, well, Chatwood. I forget about Tyler
Didn't
Chatwood.
they ditched Chatwood. They got rid of him.
I think you sure?
I thought so.
I think he's still there.
Well, we still got Quintana.
Oh, I forget Q.
And then we still got...
I'm fine with Lester. Man, we got a lot of lefties.
We got Lester, Hendricks, Cole Hamels.
We got more starting pitchers than we know what to do with.
Darvish.
Not
Graveman. Chatwood, if he's still there. Montgomery still wants to be a starter. That's 8.
The thing with Montgomery, yeah, he wants to be a starter.
They won't make him a starter.
He's got to come out of that. He's got to realize this is a professional standpoint that he has to have to benefit his team. Maybe not necessarily his career, but to benefit his team right now. He has to come out of the bullpen. Has to. We can't have 8 starters and 3 guys in the bullpen.
How do you wean it down then? How do you wean it down?
Wade Davis needs to get him. Not Wade Davis.
Brandon Morrow.
Thank you. Brandon Morrow needs to get healthy. He's a phenomenal closer. We should have never got rid of Wade Davis.
If you got 8 pitchers, how do you wean it down?
I'll tell you how you wean it down. You got Lester first. You got Hamels second. You got Hendricks third. You got Q fourth, and then you got Darvish fifth until Darvish gets healthy, and then you got Darvish at the front. And that's as simple as it is. That's your 5.
So to everyone just stick in the bullpen and deal with it.
Chatwood, Montgomery, the dude they just got, I can't remember, Graveman. You get hosed. You get the axe. Bullpen you go. See you later.
Right now, my optimal starting rotation would be John Lester on opening day.
Yep.
John Lester opening day is great. He's won more opening days than any active pitcher on an active roster.
Just the one game, or
opening day on April 1st,
okay.
Which is not April. That's stupid that it doesn't open on April 1st. That's been for 700 years. Keep it that way. But anyway, because they opened 30th of May or whatever this last season.
Yeah.
Keep it that way.
30th of March?
March, that one too.
The end month. Anyway,
the end month.
My optimal starting rotation for the playoffs, if we make it that far, we got 162 games to play, would be my ace is Cole Hamels. My number 2, Yu Darvish. My number 3, Johnny. I put Johnny at number 3 for one sheer fact.
Who's going to beat him at a third spot?
Johnny, exactly. And not only that, he's a team player. He knows what it will take to win. He put it pitching third. You got a
There's
lefty,
not an arm in
righty,
the league
lefty.
pitching third that can beat.
Nobody.
Yeah, I think that's key too. We got to separate them righties because we got a lot of lefties in there. You can't have the righties pitch back-to-back nights.
My 4 pitchers would be Hamels, Darvish, Johnny, Hendricks. Hendricks also pitches great in the postseason too.
Yep.
I don't know.
He had an off year, but was good in the postseason. We need Hamels to come back to the year before's statistics, that stat line.
Which I think he can because he does every year.
One guy I haven't heard in the mix here is where is Edwards at?
Carl Edwards Jr., CJ?
Yeah.
Bullpen. Yeah.
So you guys no consideration whatsoever.
Setup man.
No,
okay.
He's a great setup for that closer.
Okay.
He's a 6th through 8th inning guy.
Yep.
Basically for the sheer fact that he's about 160 pounds soaking wet, 6'5", and he can throw over 98 on a regular basis. That fastball he's got at 97 to 99, and then not only that, he's going to snap that slider off in there at 74. That's phenomenal. You can't hit that.
No, I understand. The reason I brought it up is because he's probably one of my favorite players on the Cubs.
Understandable.
But outside of the guys that you guys are naming off, Lester and Hamels and all these guys, just I mean, I love to watch that guy pitch.
The
There's
only
something about
problem
him.
that he has, Edwards, is that he is so inconsistent night in, night out. You don't know what you're going to get. That's the problem, but he's also young.
I couldn't imagine his arm is as long as my leg. I
Yes.
couldn't imagine trying to swing that thing at the exact same angle every time. It's got to be incredibly hard. But
And then Vladdy Guerrero, that's about the only bright spot you got coming up this season.
Yeah, that's really kicking the teeth. Tulowitzki signing with the Yankees.
Hit
It's,
bombs.
I got Tulowitzki with the Yankees, and I got Josh Donaldson with the Indians. Man, it is a bad time to be alive if you're a fan.
Bad.
Yeah.
St. Louis is going to be pretty decent. A lot of people saying they're not. I disagree. St. Louis is always going to make a push for the playoffs like they do every year. They did last year. If they don't lead the division, if the Brewers, I don't see them being near as hot.
they did last year, and now all them guys in St. Louis have a year of experience under their belts.
That pitching staff has a year of experience. They got the youngest pitching core in the National League, I think.
Do you think Milwaukee will go back to the ways of starting off the season hot and then just kind of tanking?
I don't know if they'll tank. I think they're going to be a thorn in everybody's side if they don't win it.
Okay.
I think they'll be consistent. They'll definitely be towards the top again.
Are they a playoff team?
I don't see why not.
I don't either because
They haven't lost anyone.
their MVP, Christian Yelich, is coming back. Kane's coming back. Their first baseman, Jesus Aguilar,
Yep.
coming back.
Are they better than St. Louis?
Yep.
I think it's going to be neck and neck this year.
Well, where do the Cubs lie in that then?
Better than St. Louis.
Okay.
Same capabilities, if not just a tad bit better with our positional players because of how deep they are than the Brewers.
So as it stands right now, we got about 3 months before the season. If you have the Cardinals, the Brewers, and the Cubs, how do you rank those teams 1 through 3?
Unbiased aside, I'm going to pick the Cubs up until the All-Star break. I'm going to put the Brewers and then the Cardinals. After the All-Star break, I'm going to pick the Brewers, the Cubs, and then St. Louis is still in third.
So you think the Cardinals, you like what they've done, you think they're a better team, but just not good enough?
It all depends, too. Yeah.
I think they're still too young to be quite there. I think they're there, they're just not quite there.
They're going to be a pain in
If
the
that makes
ass.
any sense.
God, they're going to be a pain in the ass all year. Bad. So the Brewers are going to, I don't know, man. I don't know. They're good.
And nothing about the Pirates. I mean, they
Pirates,
had a
they lost
17-game win streak right there.
No.
And any of that coming back?
They
Nothing.
got hot and they cooled way down.
I see the Pirates finishing last this year, the Reds finishing in fourth.
This is the
I think
first
the Reds
time
being
in
close
a
to
long
500.
time I haven't seen the Reds finish last in the NL Central. Long time I've said that.
You think the Reds have enough to maybe get
Yasiel
third?
Puig with the Joey Votto with the addition of Puig and Matt Kemp being as old as he is, still that's guaranteed a few wins. That's where I'm at.
Guaranteed enough to be third in the division.
Not third.
No.
I think the top three are still by far and above the top three.
Yeah.
So you still think what St. Louis has done? You still think they're better than Cincinnati?
Oh yeah.
By far.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
What they have in Matt Carpenter, the addition of
Cincinnati
Paul
needs a
Goldschmidt,
lot.
Jose Martinez coming off the bench, Colton Wong, their shortstop, Daniel Descalso is a Cub, guy went to Paul DeYoung. Those guys, that core they have, are going to be tough to beat.
I'm just saying, Puig, I think, is that good of a player to get
He is.
you,
I think
double-digit
Cincinnati
wins.
Absolutely got better, but they need a lot more help than
They have
they've got.
wasted Joey Votto's career.
Correct.
Wasted it.
They need a lot of starting pitching. They need a lot of everything.
They got two great positional players, one at the end of his career, one in his prime.
Do the Athletics make the playoffs?
Well, Athletics are definitely going to make playoffs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And especially if the Oklahoma quarterback now goes to play for them.
And if he
Kyler
doesn't?
Murray.
Kyler Murray. If he doesn't, they're still going to make playoffs. Kyler Murray was selling out high school stadiums for baseball. Not only football, but for baseball. He went and played, not a lot of people know this, he played AAA baseball for the Athletics this summer.
He pitches, right?
No, he's an outfielder.
An outfielder. Oh, so he's just got a big bat then.
He's got a big bat. He can cover a lot of ground. Murray, and he has got a
Oh, see, and that's what I was thinking was.
I would have assumed pitcher too.
Yeah, because I never seen him play. I didn't know. Funny enough, I didn't know he played baseball until I saw the Heisman thing, and then they were talking about it.
His athleticism is what keeps him from pitching.
He'll be the only Heisman winner to not play football ever again.
And I'm going to tell you right this, I know football is your favorite sport, but he is dumb if he goes to the NFL.
Oh, agreed.
He is dumb.
His body will last longer,
especially if he
and
wants
a lot
money.
more
Yeah, the money's there.
Dumb.
It just depends. I mean, if he truly loves football more than baseball,
That's what it comes down to.
he needs to play football. If he truly loves football, he needs to play it. But if he's all about the money, please play baseball.
Yeah.
If you care about your long-term health, please play
From
baseball.
everything I hear and everything I read, he is 3 times the baseball player he is a football, and we know what he can do on the football field. To put that into perspective.
I mean, how do you weigh it, though? I mean, do you want to try to win an MLB title or do you want to try to win a Super Bowl? I mean, it's tough.
World Series championship, Super Bowl.
It's tough.
America's pastime, football up and coming.
I mean, seriously, like think about that.
Think about it.
Out of all the choices that people get in life, and how few those people are, he has the choice to choose which one he wants to go for.
Two biggest sports in the United States, he has the choice of winning two great. I don't know.
He's got the body right now to win a Lombardi Trophy. I think in 5-7 years he'll still be good enough to play baseball. Honestly, why not both?
Bo Jackson did it.
Exactly.
Bo Jackson did it.
Super Bowl right now, you'll still have that offer from the A's in 5 years.
Jeff Samardzija wanted to, but the Cubs wouldn't allow him. Because remember, a lot of people don't know that Jeff Samardzija was a wide receiver for Notre Dame for 4 years.
Yep.
And he was just as good as being a wide receiver as he was pitching.
I think if the Athletics were smart, if they were smart, and Kyler truly wanted to play football, like Tyson said, there's nothing wrong with playing 5 or 6 years in the NFL. And then if he has
still got the body for it, he's young, he's healthy.
If he can get a verbal commitment with the Athletics to say, whoever drafts me, I'm going to play there. If I like the situation, I'm going to try to win a Super Bowl. I'm going to try to get them to the playoffs, get some success in the NFL, and then I'll come play baseball.
God forbid you think about this, he goes to the NFL for 5 years, he blows out a knee. God forbid he blows out a knee.
The thing about that, though, because he'll be on a rookie contract for 5 years, so he won't get paid in the NFL.
Right.
$7.5 million sitting on the table right now.
Right, so that kind of sucks. So even if he does win a Super Bowl, he's not going to get paid because he'll still be on a rookie contract for that duration of 5 years, basically.
Unless he, unless he gets selected with the number 1 overall pick, then he can make upwards of $4, $5, $6 million depending.
Right.
Which isn't $7.5 million.
It's not, but it's close. And if he, like I said, if money is no issue and it's more or less about the same, it could happen.
It all comes down to your head. Speaking of that, Alabama or Clemson?
Alabama's going to win.
Yeah, I'm taking Bama.
I'm taking Clemson.
Believe me, I want Clemson to win, but
Clemson's
Bama.
still got that defensive lineman and them 2 other guys starting out or sitting out for.
To be honest, I don't care. I really don't care. I don't care about this game.
I want them both to. If they can tie, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Go Clemson. Never said that in my life.
Can we just extend?
I would rather Clemson win, but
can we wish for one thing? I want to watch the game, obviously, on Monday night. I just want it to be like it was last year, a shootout, to where at least it's entertaining.
You can't say that anymore. It's insensitive.
Oh, my God. Get out of here. Anyway, Georgia and Alabama last year was a great game.
That was.
I want it to be similar, because no matter who wins, I just want it to be somewhat similar. That's all I want.
No matter who wins, as long as it's not Alabama.
Yes, no matter who wins, as long as it's not Nick Saban. I'm tired of him.
I just wanted to extend the playoffs already. That's what I'm waiting for.
Here we go.
8 teams, please. No, that's all.
8's more than enough.
8's good. 8's a solid number.
I still think we should put 64 in it.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, well, with that said, let's go ahead and wrap it up. I don't know about 64 teams, man. That's crazy.
I'm just being facetious.
February Madness.
All right.
Yes.
Let's just wrap it up
Then
there.
you got February, and then we roll that right into March.
You got football games 3 nights in a row.
Well, yeah, speaking of February, that's when the XFL is supposed to start. How about that, Cale?
February
Nice.
next year.
Yeah, February till like April or something.
Of next year, right?
Hey, man, that's more football. That's awesome.
I don't know how I feel about it.
It'll be like 8 college all-star teams.
I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know how I feel about it.
I dig it. I dig it. Let's just leave it there. We'll talk about that later.
They snubbed Chicago, so I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah,
they came out in the very first interview they had when they introduced it. They said they were going to try to put teams in cities that didn't have football. Well, Dallas and Houston both have football. So does Seattle.
Yeah.
But what?
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense. And then Los Angeles after they just got 2 more teams.
Yeah,
that's a little questionable.
Alrighty.
A little questionable. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up there. If you like what you heard, make sure to hit that like button down there, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a beat. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter, and our handle is
@sports_twin.
@sports_twin. I'll get it one of these days. But yeah, if you like what you heard, make sure to tune in to the next episode. With that said, my name is Gavin Campbell. That was Cale Fleming, Tyson Snyder. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.